I don't know why I've been hanging on to this recording. I was just re-listening to it, and the things that are in here are incredible. Are incredible. Um, Malcolm Bricklin. Malcolm Bricklin. We recorded this last year, and he's now 87. He's 87 years old. Man, like I want to be like Malcolm Bricklin when I'm 87 years old. The I don't even know what to tell you. The the ground we cover in this recording, I say this in a lot of the intros, I do, but the ground we cover, the things we talk about, his experience with Subaru, his meeting Elon Musk, the uh, I'm just gonna stop talking. You need to start listening.
All right, they call you Rowdy?
They call me Grouty. Yeah,
No kidding. All right, Rowdy, I'm Malcolm.
Malcolm. Nice to meet you.
You can call me Malcolm.
I will. I will call you Malcolm. Yeah, the nickname is a funny thing. It just happened while I was working at Google, and it stuck, and so I've embraced it. So that's kind of all I have to say about that. We have a lot to talk about. So I actually met you very briefly last summer. I was at the book signing
Oh, okay.
for Dream Car.
Yeah, yeah.
You actually look on the shelf behind me. You can see I've got a copy up here. There's a copy on the shelf back there.
Okay.
And I actually, because I've dragged my wife to the event, so I actually have two copies of the book. I hope one day I have a Wikipedia page like you.
You know what? I don't even read it anymore because there's so much crap. And you have to, in order to change it, oh my God. So I just forget about it. And I don't care what anybody writes. Do not think you're any better than anybody else. It's just the way it is.
Well, there is the best phrase, I wonder how you react to this. There's a sentence there, or part of a sentence on Wikipedia, and it just says, unorthodox career spanning more than 6 decades.
It's all true. I like that.
Right? That's tight.
That's accurate.
That's accurate.
Yeah.
And the successes, I mean, I think now, man, the successes outweigh the failures.
No, there's no such thing as failure. It's just another step to the next step. And some of my failures are, thank God, even though I lost lots of money and even though I got a lot of criticism, it allowed me to be free to experience different and more. Otherwise, my life would be filled with what? Take one. Subaru, that would not fulfill me. Building a car, that would not fulfill me. Bringing any of the cars I brought, it doesn't matter how much money I made. It doesn't matter. It would not have been a fulfilling life. So it forced me to go to another adventure that I had no idea about. And that's why I'm 86 years old and I'm 35. And I expect to be exactly the same when I'm 96 years old or 106 years old. As long as I'm excited about the day and what I'm doing, for some reason, I got no problem.
Take me back to Subaru. How did that all come together? How did that happen?
Are you ready for the story? Because it's a very convoluted story to get there.
Hit me.
You got the time?
We got the time.
Okay, here we go. And my dad moved from Philadelphia to Orlando, Florida. He, in Philadelphia, was a furrier. His father was a furrier, and his grandpa was a furrier. I remember going as a kid on Saturday to nail little pins in furs and then opening up the vault and pulling down the fur coats and going to sleep on them. He got sick, and the doctor said, you got to move south. Well, where should I move? So we went to the University of Florida and said, where do you think the biggest growth is going to be in Florida? They said Orlando, the Orlando area. And he said, so what do you think would be a good business to be in for the growth? He said, building or building supply. Now, he had no aptitude for either of those things. He got into the building supply business. And because he's very smart and because he works very hard and because he learns what he's going to do, he ended up with the biggest building supply in Orlando, in the whole area. Bricklin Building Supply. I'm off in college. I got to college, I was 17. It's another story. But now I'm in a sophomore year, and I decided, why am I in college? And then he sells his business. And then I went, whoa, now I got to decide. You know what? I think I'll leave college and start my own building supply. My name happens to be Bricklin. Aha. So I'll hire his best salesman, Jack Cranus, and it'll be Brickless Cranus Building Supply. Everybody will think I'm my dad. Everybody will think the suppliers, but my dad's behind me, even though he was not allowed to go into competition for a year. I didn't need that. I went to Miami and met all the suppliers, and they say hello to dad. Yeah, correct. I need 90 days. I said, in credit, and I'm in business. Jack Cranus has the dealer of the builders, and he went out. Anyhow, there was only one thing that I did not like about the business. A builder comes in, he builds 100 houses. You get paid. The last 10 houses, you don't get paid. I didn't like that at all, because you never know when the last 10 houses are going to come. I don't want to be in the banking business. I don't want that. This is not the business for me. Cash and carry is all I want. At that time, 7-Eleven had just started, and it was being a big deal. So I said, wait a second, because I ran around you. I looked at everything that had anything to do with building to learn what the hell I was doing. And I would see hardware stores, and they would have an amazing array of inventory that sat there. They would have a great investment for hammers. They had too many, for nails, for everything. They had too many, but they had lots of too many things, but they had to have them. So I said, well, how about if I opened a store called Handyman, open 9 to 9, 7 days a week? I'll build an A-frame. It'll be really inexpensive. I'll put sheets of plywood without even cutting them, just put them on the sides of the building and paint them different colors and put lights on them, and it'll glow like a little jewel at night. Cost me next to nothing. Inside, I'll put the stuff where you hang all the stuff on it anyhow and have big sliding doors. This is Orlando, Florida. I'm putting it in. Big deal. But what was I going to do different? How am I going to get away with not giving? I'm giving a large supply of stuff in a little area. How am I going to get away with not having depth? IBM cards that just come out. What a great idea. I'll give an IBM card for everything they have in the store. And when they sell a hammer, you pull a card. And when you sell a piece of plywood, you pull a card. And I'll have a truck come around every day and pick up the cards, give you yesterday's supply, and give you back your cards. How simple is that? And I went to IBM, and they gave me a room full of equipment, which was nothing more than a card camera, put it in order. So when I collected it in the warehouse, I was collecting the parts in order. And that was simple as can be. So now I have to build my first store. I needed good areas on highways that went by, and I needed like an acre, and that cost money. And I didn't have the money to buy and build and put the inventory in the first store. And they didn't want to build it because it was a one-use building, they thought. I tried to convince them, no, you could use no. So then I said, okay, how do I convince them to sell me that piece of land? Because they're not going to lease it to me, because they're not going to build the building. So then I realized when people get a contract that's printed up, they tend not to try to change it. Okay, so I printed up a contract, and it said, handyman is going to buy the car, and we will give you 29% down, and you will allow a first mortgage from a bank. Okay, that sounded okay to them. So let's say $20,000 lot, I'm going to pay you $6,000, a little less than $6,000. You got it. Now I go to the bank, I'm going to put up a $15,000 building, and now I got $35,000. You'll give me enough money to give them the 29% and to build the building, because it only costs about $5,000 to build the building. And I could put the inventory in, all with my bank loan. And they got their watching, and we pay them every month. And now I'm going to franchise it. First, I open it up, and it does really good. People buy plywood, they buy a can of paint, they buy a hammer, they come in at 8 o'clock at night, they come in on Sunday morning. It's exactly cool. So now I want to put them all up. I ended up with 17 in Orlando, 150 in the country, franchising the thing. I'm making a lot of money. I mean, for me, it was a lot of money, but I had a goal in life. I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I'm 21. I had no idea how I'm going to do it, because I wasn't making $1 million on this. but it was fun business. And the warehouse, we built beautiful warehouse. I figured out how to buy stuff and get money by doing it. So all these buildings I was building, I own, they're paying me rent and they're using it. And of course, what a cool idea. I can add items and give it 2 or 3. So you're never having very much invested in your inventory, but you always have my warehouse to back you up in your inventory. All right. I mean, anyhow. So now I make a deal with Dixie Paint and Varnish Company in Brunswick, Georgia. Now think about that for the future. Brunswick, Georgia. I build a car in New Brunswick. All right. Now we're talking 5960. And when we do that, it's 73, 74. All right. Talk about how the world works. Never figured that out while I was doing it until I looked back and said, whoa. Anyhow, Dixie Paint and Varnish Company, really a nice older man. Now remember, I'm a kid. So everybody is putting me under their arm. And I'm listening because they got good advice. So they can be daddy all they want to be, fine with me. And they had an airplane because the guy who owned it liked to fly. And he would fly from Brunswick, Georgia to Orlando, Florida, which was not a big deal flight. And we would talk and stuff. And every once in a while, I go back with him to Brunswick, Georgia to have a seafood dinner or something like that. And then they'd fly me back. We became friends and we were selling the hell out of paint. But we only had a very small area for paint and a paint mixer because we had a lot of things in there. And they saw what was happening. And they wanted more paint in the store. And I kept saying, listen, I know what you're saying, and assume we can. The store isn't a paint store. It's not it's a convenience store for people who need stuff that they want to work on. Handyman or the wife or whatever, they need a hammer, they need a nail, they need one piece of plywood, they need a little can of paint. That's all they need. Yet, could the whole store be a paint store, but it would not be the same thing. It would be a different kind of store. And I'm not going to gamble it. This is working. Anyhow, they saw and he started flying back more often because it was fun to come to see what we were doing. It was really dramatic. I mean, people were coming all day and it was really cool. And one day he said, listen, what would it take for you to turn this into a paint store? I said, nothing. I'm not going to do it. It's not the plan. Everybody got a paint store. What are we? We're open 9 to 9. That's the only difference. This is working. Why do you care? You're selling paint. He said, would you be interested in selling? I said, my price is simple. I want $1 million after taxes before I'm 21. Anytime you're ready to write out a check for that, you own the place. So he wrote out a check for that. And I was a millionaire. Now, for the first time in my life, I had no idea. Because if I now came up with an idea and spent my money, I wouldn't be a millionaire. Whoa, this is amazing. This is like an anchor around my neck. I was married. I had got married when I was 20. I think we had our first kid right before I was 21. Yeah, I think so. Whatever it is, I knew I was going to have kids, so I put it in some kind of a trust so that whatever amount of kids I have gets divided with the money. Now I was no longer a millionaire. Now I could think.
Tricky match, right? Because you're like, I am a millionaire, and now I'm immediately not a millionaire.
And that made me feel. And then I realized never to ask for money. That's not my goal. Money to make, yes. Money to do business, yes. Money to have things I want, yes. But not, I want to be a millionaire or billionaire. No, that's not a goal that I'm going to put in my head. Even though now I got a billionaire, couple billion goal for kicks. But that's okay. It's not the same. Anyhow, the end of the story is I decided I'm going to move to Philadelphia. And that in itself was an adventure. Of course, my wife had only gone on one airplane in her life, and that was on a honeymoon, and she hated it. Scared to death and hated it. She's not going to fly to Philadelphia. The movers came and moved the stuff. Oh, this is a couple years later. I've tried different things to work for people as a consultant. None of it worked because I'm not interested in telling somebody that doesn't do what I tell them. And why should they? They own the place. Let them do what they want. But that's not my goal. I can't do it. So finally, 3 kids, one under 1, one under 3. No, one under 1, one under 2, one under 4. are now going, they move, the stuff moved. Now I'm going to move to Philadelphia. I have a Corvette, the slanted roof, 3 kids in the back, a U-Haul it behind it, going from Orlando, Florida to Philadelphia. Tell me that's not a trip.
Why Philadelphia? What was it?
Oh, because that's where I was born.
Okay.
So I had some relatives there and I knew some people there. I just wanted to change. Don't ask me why. No common sense why. No common sense why. And I'm loving Orlando. It's a great place to live. And I grew up there. All right, so we get there. I introduced to a man by the name of David Rosen. He is in the coin-operated machine business. He's like the biggest in the area. Jute boxes, cigarette machines, anything you put a coin in, he puts in your place for free, and it splits whatever they split. And he loves me now. And he'll do anything. I said, it's not my, I don't want to do it. But every once in a while I come in, we'd have lunch, we'd talk, I'd listen to him. And nope, I could do anything to go to work with him. I said, no. One day he says to me, I got something you're going to love. He said, you ever been to Europe? I said, nope. He said, get a passport. And we're flying to Italy. And why? There is a machine called the Cinebox machine. It looks like a big egg. And it's a jukebox that sees films. It's MTV before MTV even thought about it. What a great idea. So boom, we fly off to meet with Inocente Corporation. They're the people who make the large presses for automobiles. I mean, the huge stuff. And they are also making this, and they also make Lambretta motor scooter. Lambretta motor scooter. And a few other minis from England on license. They're a big company. And we fly in to see the Cinebox. And the Cinebox is painted red on the outside and the front car. It's just cooler than hell. It's on a pedestal compared to an old jukebox. I mean, this is like really 21st century. This is 15, that's about 1962, 63, 64,
Wow.
65, 65, maybe 65. In that area, sometimes the dates sort of go by fast. Anyhow, so Dave says, okay, we'll buy 10. Okay. Now we come back, and now we need film for this thing. So I put my suit on, and I fly to California. And I have to go see all the movie companies. And they're all happy to see me, and I have pictures of the thing, and they all think it's great. But they have no interest in making a film for 10 boxes. When I got 1 million boxes, they'll be right there. But I ain't going to have 1 million boxes unless you get me some film. Never going to happen. And after I talked to all of them, I realized it's never going to happen. I don't blame them one bit. Why would they go spend the money to go put a thing together that 10 people, I mean, not 10 people, but 10 locations are going to see before MTV now, before it hooked on. All right, Dave, this is not going to work. He says, well, it can. He said, I can put R-rated films on the thing. They love it in the bars. I said, they may, but I don't. Not that I don't mind looking at them, but I don't want that business. That's not the business I want to be in. So how about if I get rid of the 10 machines for us so you get your money back? And I went to Food Fair and I said, put it at the top of your checkout counters and get the people your commercials of the crap you sell in the back. And as they're walking through, they look up, maybe they'll get out and buy some more stuff. They bought it and they bought the 10 and we're going. Finished. And that was it, I thought. Now it is a Sunday morning. I am eating breakfast with my kids and my wife, and I get a call from Italy, Inocente Corporation. Mr. Bricklin, yes, we want you to get on a plane tomorrow. The ticket will be waiting at the airport. We want you to fly to Milan. That's where they were. We prefer you didn't tell anybody about what we're asking you to do. Come. We will pick you up at the door of the plane. You will not be going through customs. And we'd like to see you tomorrow. And I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. Okay, I'll be there. I get on the plane at 5. They pick me up at the thing. We go straight through the airport. I only had carry-on anyhow. I figure I'm there for a day. I have no idea but whatever it is, it sounds cool. And I'm now sitting down with the board of directors of Inocente Corporation. Now, remember, I'm wearing double-breasted suits and Peter Max ties, and I got sideburns down to here. And that is not exactly how the people in the hierarchy that are 50 and older are wearing it. I'm like, I just came from the moon.
Right. It's the whole,
It
Ford
doesn't matter. I
Ferrari.
just listen, right? I'm young. They're old. What can I tell you?
Right. And they're Italian.
Anyhow,
They got Italian suits. They're doing their fashion
they're
thing.
sharp, but different sharp.
Right.
Okay. Okay, they tell me. Okay, here's their problem. Libretta Motor Scooters and Vespas were the scooters. They were selling terrific. And in came mopeds and put everybody out of business. And they are sitting with 25,000 Libretta Motor Scooters in Long Island. And they went from selling them to stopping sales completely. And it's not the value of the 25,000, which is not a big deal to them. It is the embarrassment. And they need to get rid of them. And they want me to do that. I said, well, you couldn't have picked the worst guy. I couldn't own a scooter when I was 14 and was able to drive. I was not allowed to have a motorbike when I was, that my mom would not have it under any condition. So I know exactly nothing about that form of transportation, except I want it and I can't have it. I said, so you got the wrong guy. No. You got to help us. I said, I don't know. I honestly, if you said, here's $1 trillion, I wouldn't know what I was supposed to do the first step. They said, well, you go back and at least go to the warehouse and talk to the people that are there and tell us what you would do based on that. I said, I'd be happy to. I fly back. I go to Long Island. I meet two nice Italian gentlemen who speak broken English. And they take a nice long, a couple hour lunch. They take a little siesta. And if it was hot, the sales would be down. When the sales aren't there, they're never going to sell a vehicle. Not the way that they're just not available. And if you talk to them, you wouldn't understand them on the phone anyhow. So they got the wrong guys. So I get back on the plane. I fly back. I said, well, first of all, I hate to tell you this, but you ought to get rid of the two people you got. Give them a nice whatever you give them. And they're the wrong people. You're better off with nobody there and an answering machine than having them. It's not their fault. It's just not the kind of people you need when you need to push the sales. Okay, good. We agree with you. What does it take for you to be in charge of doing this? I said, are you hearing me clearly? I said, I'm the wrong guy. So I'm trying to think of what can I ask him for that will say, oh, go screw this kid. Because I don't want to keep saying no. They said, well, give us. I said, okay, I want a New York office. I want $5,000 a week for a 1-year contract that can't be canceled. And I'm warning you in front, you're making a mistake. They said, okay. They said, we happen to own an office. We happen to be renting an office in New York at the Time and Life building. And we have a secretary there already that is for your use. And you got it. Now I go out, I buy myself an old used Rolls Royce for $5,000. And I got myself a chauffeur. And every day I come downstairs in Philadelphia in my pajamas and a pillow. I go to sleep in the back seat until you're on the turnpike to the last gas station where I put on my suit and my tie. And I go to the Time and Life building. I go upstairs. I have no idea what I am supposed to do. So I buy the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Post, and the Daily News, and I read the papers. Now, I'm finished reading the papers. I still don't know what I'm going to do. Now it's time to figure out where I'm going to go to lunch. So let's see. Do I want to go to the Four Seasons? Nah. There's a place called Toots Shores next to the Four Seasons. And I go, that has a table, a round table in there that is known for people who want to talk to other people sit at that table. So sometimes the chairman of the board of General Motors might be sitting there so they can get what they consider honest information. So I decide that's what I'm going to do. So I go and I sit down and I'm having lunch, and the guy next to me happens to have his office across the street from me. And he has one customer, J.C. Penney's, which is in the building next door to me. And he sells furniture for a company in North Carolina. That's his only business. And he's a police Groupie. What's a police groupie? He has a badge and he knows everything and he knows all the people in the New York police force and other people. He loves policemen. He just loves it. And he lives with it. I mean, he's like a undercover policeman. He's not, but he just, everybody knows him in the police force. He does things for him. He helps raise money for him. And that's his life. And he's interesting. And he invites me to come to his office. His office has a receptionist who is young and adorable, and himself. And when he goes down to have lunch to chores, she closes the office. Well, very shortly, she and I connect. So now he closes the office, I go there. We spend a little time together, and then I go meet him for lunch. And I'm with him about 2 weeks and talking to all the different people. I still have no idea what to do, by the way. And he says to me, give me 3 scooters. Okay. What are you going to do? He said, I'm going to give them to the meter maids. I know the guy who runs the meter maids and he's going to try them. Okay. He has them. 2 weeks later, he says, shows me a letter. They believe that a scooter is the equivalent of 5 meter maids. They would like to order 1,000. So I negotiate a 5% commission. I call up, what's your name? I said, we got 1,000. Tell me how do we ship this damn stuff? It's going, and I tell them. And then, of course, they're jumping up and down. And what's your name? And now I've been working on this thing for about a month. Not bad. Another week goes by. They've gotten the scooters. Another week goes by. I'm still having fun seeing the young lady, going to lunch, driving back and forth in the rolls, going to sleep in the car. I still don't have the slightest idea what to do next. And he says, okay. He said, a big success. Now, at that time, Central Park, you didn't go in, even in the daytime. It was just not safe. He said, they talk to these, I talk to them, 3 scooters I need for Central Park. Well, the truth of the matter is they're going to be running over the lawn and the rocks and the shit, and a moped would be better. But nobody was talking to him except this guy. End of story, they buy 1,000. And end of story, front page, New York Times, Scooter Patrol opens up Central Park. So far, I've sold 2,000. And all I do is read the paper, get in the car, and have lunch and screw to go. Holy crap, this is pretty good. But now I figure I'm over. How many more is the police force going to buy? They just got 2,000, right? He said, okay, give me 15,000. Okay, what for? He said, we're having an ad in the Police Gazette. And I got both guys at the NYPD to allow them to put their names and their phone numbers with, please call me and we'll tell you what's happened. And we sell all the scooters.
From when to when? How long did it take to sell?
The whole transaction took 3 months.
So you went from no idea how to
I
sell.
still don't.
Still
If
don't.
it wasn't for him, I still would be sitting with none. I wouldn't have talked to the first person. Who would you talk to go sell scooters?
Man, I have no
I
idea.
don't know.
Yeah.
I still don't know. Now, fast forward, I got 9 more months on my contract. And all due respect, I can't be sitting around reading the papers and having lunch and screwing the girl. That's just not my style.
I mean, it's not a horrible life. It's not a horrible life.
Oh, no. It's not me, but it was me for me to go to the next step. I didn't know. None of this would I have chosen. I wouldn't have flown there. I wouldn't have ever said yes for any amount of money because I was not going to be able to accomplish it.
And did you ever figure out, outside of the fact that you had the previous interaction with them, why they called you for this job?
Yeah. Oh, I asked them because I'm an American and they trust me.
Huh.
End of story. And I kept telling them, well, if you trust me when I tell you I can't tell it. I don't know what I'm doing. But they didn't listen because they had no choice. They were desperate. And that's the way the world works. And I learned very early on, just don't say no. If you say no, you don't have an opportunity. If you say yes, who knows? That's it. It's a hard time sometimes to say it because something as ridiculous as that. And that's the answer that taught me If that happened, and that's impossible to imagine, just don't be such a wise guy. Just say yes. All right.
Sure.
So we're now going to fast forward. So now I'm bored to death and I'm reading the papers and I see rental scooters. Now, at that time, I started looking at it. People were renting scooters for $15 an hour. They're driving scooters only cost a couple $100 back then. Wow, that's amazing. And I went out and I talked to a few people who were renting scooters on the street, and their problem was when the person rents a scooter, that's because they've never had one. They have to shift the damn thing and balance the thing, and that means they're going to probably fall a couple times and sometimes get hurt, and then they're going to sue somebody, and nobody has insurance. So the minute that happens, they close up shop. So I said, okay, first thing is you need insurance. So I go to State Farm and say, I got a deal for you. Want to rent scooters in large numbers? I'll pay you $1 an hour. Got a contract. Now I got a contract. The only problem is I don't have a scooter. I read in the Wall Street Journal, a guy has 400 in an ad. Don't even ask me why, because I don't read the damn ads. 450 scooters on rental. Has a contract to bring in the Rabbit scooter, which has automatic transmission. So I got insurance and I got no shift if I get that. And he's looking for $75,000 in Boston. I fly to Boston. I meet a nice gentleman. He has a contract with a Japanese company. He said the problem with that is he has 450, he makes a lot of money in the summertime, but you don't rent scooters in the wintertime. So he has to store them. So that costs money. On top of that, in order to have the contract, he had to have parts. So now he has a parts warehouse. And apparently policemen were buying, based on probably what we did, so they're buying scooters, but they need parts, and he has to have people, and he has a little airplane, which he loves to fly. And that's probably more important than anything else in his life. And he owes $75,000 on an SBA loan to the New England Merchant Bank. And he's overdue. And he's got all these, it's wintertime now. Nothing's coming in. I said, tell you the deal I'd like to make with you. And he doesn't like to be in the business of the scooter. He wants to be in the rental business. I said, how about I buy the company from you? You keep the 450 scooters. You keep the airplane. I only want the parts and the new scooters that you don't like in a warehouse, and I'll take over that. And you'll work for the company and get paid, but all your job is to give me advice on how to open up scooter rentals, how I can sell them to other people, because I'm going to franchise it to gas stations. Because they already have the gas, they already got the people working, they already got the lot. To them, it's going to be all profit. I'll sell them a dozen scooters that we can finance easier as hell, with them owning the gas station, of course. Great, because all he wanted was his airplane and those 450 scooters. So we go to the bank, we sit down and tell them, and the bank says, I say to the banker, you get the contract assigned to me, and call me and tell me you have it. Then I'll pay off the loan. I tell him, the other guy, get me everything ready because I'm going to sell all the scooters you got. You're going to get rid of them. So I figure I'll sell them immediately to a gas station for rental. That I can understand. So I go out and I talk to a couple of gas stations, and I'll buy them. So I see we got a good idea. That was for cash. But if I can show them how to finance it from a bank using the gas station as collateral, they'll have no problem buying it. And they'll make money. No question about it. $15 an hour, they'll make all their thing back in a month. I get a call from the bank. Got a signed contract. Great. Give me Fuji's information. I go out and get a telex. I telex them. Well, I look forward to meeting you. I want to come over next week. I want to buy all the scooters you got, whatever your top number is that you can produce. I want to buy them, and I'll give you letters of credit. You don't need any other customers. I'll see you next Wednesday. I get a telex back the next morning. Who am I? And don't I know they're dismantling the factory. because they sold it to Israel. I call up the bank. Excuse me, you said you got a contract signed. I just got told, who am I? And don't I know this man? And said, yeah, we know. And we forged the contract. I said, are you out of your mind? They said, we figured you would have no problem convincing them to keep it open. And the truth of the matter is exactly how I did things. So I wasn't mad yet. Because again, I thought, well, if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done anything. I wouldn't even be in this position. So what the hell? Now I'm going to go over there. I'll talk him into it. Big deal. I fly to Japan. Now I'm meeting the same 50-year-olds, but these guys are all gray. The yen is 360. They're all scared to death of fucking with the United States. They know the story. I've been fucked. They didn't do it, but they don't know what kind of liability they may have. So they're being extremely nice to me. All right. I mean, I'm in there with Peter backside. I definitely came from the moon, is where they're talking about. But they're scared. You can tell they're scared. This is, pretty early on. They haven't been in the United States. Yeah, this is scary for Fuji heavy industries. And so what they do is to get my mind off of things. Every day they take me to a new place in the country to see a factory that they build cars in, and a factory that you build this in. And finally, they take me to the scooter factory that is being dismantled. And I say to them, listen, guys, here's how I'm going to sell them. Here's what I know about selling them. And I will give you a letter of credit for whatever the amount is. It'll be a revolving letter of credit for your monthly supply. You don't need any other customers. Call your people in Israel and tell them I'll give them a profit. So they don't feel cheated. You won't feel like you cheated anybody. Let's get going. Now, aso, I thought meant yes. It means we heard you. I didn't know that. I thought I sold them. So I fly back, happy as a what's name. And 2 weeks later, I got so sorry. We can't get out of the contract. We're so sorry. Fuck. Now, I'm not used to not winning.
And how old are you at this point? You're
27.
27.
I'm not used to not winning. This is not okay. 65. How old am I? Maybe 26. Somewhere in that neighborhood, 26, 27. So now I remember when they took me on the tour, they had a car there, a front-wheel drive car. They said would cost $970, FOB Yokohama. And they had a little car. They got 66 miles to the gallon. It seats 4 people, and I could buy it for $640, FOB Yokohama. But they were not interested in selling either one to me. All right. They say now they'll when they're ready, they'll bring it in, which is what every manufacturer always are the importers into the United States. They were not, nobody's interested in anybody being an importer for them. Though maybe distributors for them, which is a big deal they used to have, but not an importer. Got factories. And I certainly am not qualified because I don't remember buying or selling a car. Leased cars. All right, somebody got it for me and I leased it for me. I didn't even go down to lease it. All right, so buying and selling cars, definitely not in my, and I certainly don't know how to fix a car if I almost don't know how to charge a battery. All right. So I go back and I tell them I'm going to take the little car. I figured $640, $100 for transportation and $14 for duty. I may not know what I'm doing, but I certainly can sell that damn thing or lease it for $30 a month or something like that. Now, remember, they're being polite. But by this time, they're having fun with me. I brought them all Peter Max ties and made them wear it with their gray crap. So I can see they're trying to think of a way. I see they're trying to figure out how to be polite, but not give me what I want. So they said, all right, listen, in 1968, the new federal regulations apply, which means the car has to have the original safety things in your car. So give us $1.5 million and we'll make the car, the little car. The big car, you're not going to get. The little car, Well, I'm not giving anybody $1.5 million. That's number one, because I don't know what I'm doing. So I say, let me think about it. I'll be back. I fly to Washington. I go to NHTSA. They say, give me your book on the regulation. It's thick. I go out in the lobby. I start looking. After about 2 pages, I realize, what am I doing? I mean, I don't even know what I'm reading. This is impossible. I go back to the first, and it says these cars apply to all cars under 1,000 pounds curb weight. So I go back in. Excuse me, what's curb weight? The car at the curb with all the fluids, the battery fluids, the air conditioning fluids, all the fluid, gasoline, all the fluids in the car has to weigh 1,000 pounds or under. Brochure says 970 pounds curb weight. What do I do? But you go down to the IRS, you show them that, and they'll give you a letter exempting you. I said, and when I bring it in, how long before you change the rules? They said, here's how it works. We need lots of complaints. When we get lots of complaints, we have to hold a hearing. After we're finished with the hearings, if we decide we're changing it, it takes 2 years. I said, no kidding. You mean I got from this day, no matter what happens, 2 years? They said, you may have 20 years. We may never change it. It all depends, but it sure as hell a lot longer than 2 years. Thank you so much. Bye. Went down to the IRS. I got a letter that says, I want you to put it in my pocket, called them up, flew back there. I said, I want to see the board of directors. We're going to come to a conclusion, and I promise you good results. I fly back, and it's memorable because on that day in Tokyo, it snowed, and that's a very rare event. So I knew this is about to start something interesting. I am now sitting at the table with the board of directors, which I asked for. And I said, all right, guys, let's bring it to a head. I haven't told you this because I didn't want to brag, but I'm very powerful politically in the United States. And I know you think I'm full of shit. So let's do the following. If I can get the United States government to give me an exemption to bring this car in without you doing a damn thing to it, you'll give me a contract for the United States. Okay. And Subaru of America was formed.
Amazing.
So I didn't get the motor scooter I wanted. Instead, I got my first step into the car business. Now it doesn't go smoothly. I take the car comes in. I'm going to set up car dealers who I have no idea what to do. So I hire somebody who does with me. We go see car dealers. We drive the car 66 miles to the gallon. It's a cute little car. It really is. That includes white wall tires, leather seats, a radio, heater. It's cool. I mean, they can sell it for $12.95 and they get 20%. How bad is that? People are buying them. It's a fun thing. I take you in that car and I can, oh man, it's really it's fun. I'm selling them. Now remember, I'm giving them letters of credit. So they got cars being built. They got cars coming over. I got cars coming in. I mean, this works. And they don't want to give me the big car. So I'm going to figure out, make this a success, then I'll talk about the next. Consumer Report comes out. On the front cover, a Cadillac head-to-head with this little 360. And it affects a piece of shit because it didn't have to meet federal regulations. Basically, that's where their story knocked the crap out of the car. And the car was adorable. It really was an adorable little car. Yeah, if 2 cars came like that, you're dead. But if you hit it, because it was so light, it would go away, which means you would not get the force on you. We never heard of anybody dying in the car. It doesn't matter. The report was horrible. I get a call. I'm cocky. Oh, consumer, so what? How many subscribers? 500,000. 500,000 people won't buy the car. No, all the banks read Consumer Reports, and they cut up all the floor planning from the dealers, which meant I was out of business. Instantaneously, with cars coming in, cars being unloaded, cars being manufactured. I now have 2 problems. One problem, I got to get rid of what's coming in, and I can't sell it through dealers. Number 2, I got to get the bigger car, or all my dealers are going to go out of business. And Subaru's name is going to be fucked. And they don't want to give me the bigger car. And now I got to go back and say, I can't sell cars and I'm about to go bankrupt. And that's how I'm going to have to ask them for the bigger car. So I go to Wall Street and I meet an investment banker. I said, here's what the story is. I'm going to go get that bigger car. So here's what I want. You tell me, I'm telling you that car is the winner of the world. The only folks, Datsun and Toyota were the only cars in, and they had bad quality. They pulled back and started to get good. And at the time I came to Japan, they had just turned the corner to make the best in the world. From crap, they were going to the best quality known to the universe. So I lucked in at exactly their perfect time, and Fuji was right out in front with great quality. So now I got to go. So I said to the investment banker, I need $1.2 million. When I get that car, I need $1.2 million. And I need lots of letters of credit. I need to make a deal with you. You have your lawyers draw a contract. You tell me how long it has to be for you to write when I come back and say, there it is signed, that you write out the check. Not you're going to involve in, not you're going to invest in, not you're going to find somebody that day. And he said, okay, we'll do that. I showed him pictures of the car. I told him front wheel drive. I gave him the whole story. He said, I'm telling you, it's an absolute winner. They said, okay, 25-year contract. And then don't ask me why. I said, how about to make this really nice, suppose I get a perpetual contract? They said, that's unheard of. We don't even know if it's legal. I said, I don't give a fuck. Perpetual certainly means it's going to be for a long, long, long time. And I want, you guarantee if I get that, you give me $1.2 million. The day I walk in, here's the contract, you write out the check. You got a deal. They wrote me a piece of paper. I take their contract, make some modifications, not in the perpetual, and send it off to them saying, I'm getting on a plane tomorrow. You need to sign it as is. Don't make any changes. Now, to tell the Japanese they can't negotiate a contract when something they don't want to do to begin with is not an easy position to take. So I'm walking on the plane in New York to go to Tokyo, and I get a call from my secretary. They announce it in the website. So I run to a payphone. I get on a payphone. No cell phones, no computers. And she says, we just got a telex back and said the purpose of coming is to sign the contract without change. Don't come. I said, write them back. I'm coming. You're signing. See you tomorrow. And I'm bringing with me Harvey Lamb, who is my executive vice president and who eventually takes over running Subaru for years and years and does an incredible job. He came from selling furniture to people that were poor and needed financing. All right. But he was my golf buddy on Thursdays, and he lived in the same apartment house in Philadelphia. That was his qualification, but he was great. And he did incredible. So both of us together knew nothing. So I bring him. And Mr. Kikuchi, the export manager, we told him why we have to sign a contract. Look at what happened over here. You know, you think Hiroshima was bad. I can't tell you what's going to happen over here when, this hits the fan, because we can't pay for all this crap. I got to have time to sell the cars that are coming in. I need the bigger car. Listens to me all day long, and I don't stop. The next day he comes back. No, they said no. The next day I start all over again. I add whatever I can add to the game. Next day they come back. No. I try one more day, and Harvey says, we lose. It's over. They're just not going to give us the bigger car. I said, I'm not leaving. I then say to Kikuchi, all right, I can see it doesn't matter what I say, you're not going to, whoever you're talking to is not listening. So I want Mr. O'Hara. Mr. O'Hara was the chairman of the board and had been made chairman of the board a little before I had gotten into their life. And he came from a bank. He was a little younger, probably in his 60s. But there seemed to be some empathy. I said, it's not that we ever went out, we never did. Yeah, I just felt there was a closeness, that a little sparkle in his eye. He liked the energy. And he always wore a nice suit, not all gray, but no Peter Max ties, except when I made him do it. Anyhow, okay. I said to Kikuchi, listen, I want dinner tomorrow with O'Hara and you and Harvey and myself. And if I can't take O'Hara into it, I give up. Stop. I won't fight you anymore. Then we'll talk about how you can help me maybe get rid of these cars. The little car. Okay, that's back. Ohio Lamitas. And we go to a place 16 stories high, which is as high as they would allow to build because of earthquakes at those times. And there's a band. And we're all smoking cigarettes. I'm smoking like a chimney. I mean, one after another, I got a headache about this big. And I go through my presentation to Kikuchi, who then tells it to O'Hara. And he goes, and then I go one more time. No. Then I turn to Harvey and I said, Harvey, I can't explain why I'm going to do what I'm about to do. If anybody in my life had ever worked for us or I knew did what I'm about to do, I would fire them and probably throw them out the window at the same time. It's what I'm doing is going to be so against everything in my system that it never could come out of my mouth to a homeless person, let alone to a man I respect like O'Hara. But I'm going to do it. So hold on to your seat, and here goes. And I get up, and I'm about 6 or 8 inches from his face, which is impolite to begin with, and called him a cocksucking motherfucking Jap. And then talked about Hiroshima. And if you think that was anything, I went on in his face in my loudest voice with the most energy I've ever put out in my entire life, about 20 minutes worth. And every bad word I could think of came out of my mouth. And I went back. Harvey and her are under the table. I mean, literally have slinked under the table. O'Hara looks at me, turns to Kikuchi and goes, and Kikuchi looks at me and says, you got the contract.
That's what it took? That's what it took.
To this day, I have no idea what happened. The only thing that makes any sense is what O'Hara had and experienced was this amazing amount of energy coming out of me saying, I want to do this deal and I can do it. That's what he heard. Because he said, now, not only did we have the deal to negotiate the next day, but we had O'Hara going from everybody knew they had said, no, 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 no. For him to change his mind is 100% not any way that they would ever do in their lifetime. So they are now convinced I have something on him or he loves me in a gay sort of way or something because this never happened. So now we're negotiating. We got no problem with anything. They said, we can't give it perpetual. We're not even sure it's legal. And besides, that's embarrassing. And by the way, that makes me the importer. I'll tell you what, we'll give you $10 a car in a bank here in Tokyo. And I said, and we'll all go to jail. I said, it's against the law for me to take something under the table. I said, and everything then they said, okay, listen, we'll give it to you. You can't tell anybody. I said, we're a public company. It's going to be on the front page of the financial thing every single year. This contract is perpetual. It's going to be, oh my God, oh my God, oh my. We got it. And every year it was on the first page of the financial thing. And I came back and the investment banker gave me the $1 million too. And Subaru of America took off.
Malcolm.
And that's how I got in the car business. Aren't you glad you asked the question?
I mean, I am, but that's amazing. And okay. Okay. So we're going to fast forward a bit. Do you still have time? Can we keep talking? Do you still have time?
I got no problem. You got the time, I got the time.
Amazing. That story is legitimately incredible. Like how you went from nothing to hardware, the paint sale, to scooters, to more scooters, to no scooters, to Subaru is mind-boggling.
Absolutely. And none of them were ever in my mind as things I would like to do in my life. So if you wrote a list of 300 million things, none of them would have been on there.
Amazing. Amazing.
And I, by the way, love the car business I'm in. which is not in the normal, any part of the normal car business. I was an importer 5 times. Nobody was an importer except the factories. And
So
I'm the least qualified. I was. Now I know that business, how to set it up, how do you do it, how do you get rid of a car, all those things. I know like the back of my hand. But fix the car, wouldn't have the slightest idea.
so 5 times. What are the 5 brands? Subaru, Yugo,
Bricklin,
Bricklin.
Hugo, Pininfarina, and Bertoni.
Wow.
I got a story for them all.
I don't know if we have all. We're gonna have to do 5 episodes to get all of the stories.
If you want my whole life, it'll take you a week and a half.
Amazing. Let's fast forward a little bit to the Bricklin SV1. And you already made the connection between Brunswick and New Brunswick. Man, I have here. So outside of the fact that I
By
have
the way, I never made that connection until years later.
years later.
Never crossed my mind.
I have so I have the book, actually several
Okay.
copies of the book, but I also have, and this is wild. So I teach at the Automotive Business School of Canada, among a bunch of other things that I'm doing. And the gentleman who brought me in to the school, his name's Alan McGee. Alan, great guy, very thankful for him giving me that opportunity. He retired this year, and he was every time I went to his office, he would talk about how he's cleaning out his office, needs to get rid of this stuff. And he's like, "Is there anything on the shelf you want?" He's like, "I got this, I got that." And he'd been there for a long time, I think 25 years, 25 years. And so he gives me this magazine, 1975, with you on the cover of McLean's. And I'm like, and he hands it to me. I'm like, that's the photo, or that's like a version, that photo that is the book is from this magazine from 1975. I'm like, that is incredible as well. Um, and the story, it's funny reading a 1975 edition of Maclean's because they wouldn't write like this today because the opening paragraphs are all about this hot girl that came with you to sell the car at some point. And then and then they went on to say that Malcolm Bricklin was born to hustle. He sees himself as a man whose job is to push, promote, hype, juice, goose, inflate, mesmerize, and sell, baby, sell. That's the McLean's 1975. Um,
Cool.
so let's talk about the SV1. How did that
Okay.
happen? How did that happen? I mean, how many people on the planet, because I don't even think this includes Elon, can say they created a car company, that they built a car? I mean, he's made some cars since, but I mean, it's the unspoken story of Tesla is he didn't start it, right? He kind of took it over.
He did a hell of a job of a lot of companies. I met him, by the way. I spent 5 hours with him, with Eberhard, and he were getting together. I got a call from Eberhard. Would I please meet with them when I come back to California? I'll tell you that story later. But
Okay.
my hat goes off to what he has accomplished. This is a genius. If he kept his mouth shut and kept out of politics, he would be a lot smarter. But you know what? When you got $400 or $500 billion, I'm not sure how I would think.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like to use the phrase "the rich are different," right? Like
Yeah.
it's probably he no longer has the people around him to tell him to
He has 20 people in his safety people.
right.
I mean, come on now. What a horrible
Security.
situation.
Yeah,
Horrible.
security. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, the SV1.
God.
How did it happen?
All right. First of all, remember now, I told you Consumer Reports safety, and they beat me up for it. I had that in my craw. It pissed me off because it wasn't an unsafe car. I mean, what they were saying was true, but what their conclusion was not. And somebody was having a good time. I learned later on that when people have an opportunity to write good or bad, they always write bad because more people are interested in reading it. End of story. As I said, God and Jesus and Buddha don't got much time. So who the hell do I think I am? All right. The end of the story, that was in my craw. I decided I'm going to build a safety car. It's going to be the safest car in the world, and it's going to be more beautiful than anything out there. That was number one. Number two, Subaru was now running good. I had brought people in. Harvey was taking over. I had a guy by the name of Mike Sanya. I made president. He came from Volkswagen. really great guy. Started signing up distributors, which I then learned how good they were. And that became part of my world of vehicles when I wanted to go do business because they knew dealers better than I in the areas that they were. Anyhow, everything was going good. I was getting a little bored. So I said, I'm going to build a car. I'm in California. We had an office in California, so I would travel there a lot. And I met Bruce Myers Banks. He was doing swimming pool and the buyer. Anyhow, so we became friends. And I said, I want to build a car. And I gave him a picture of roughly what I wanted to build. I said, can you build me a prototype? Yeah, sure. So very fast and very cheap, he built a prototype, which happens to look like what DeLorean eventually built with my permission. He asked to be able to use that. We became friends. He was going to be my president.
So that's how that happened? Like, it is uncanny, the similarity. I mean, there are differences.
Well, when you see the two cars, they were both gray. Mine was gray. His was what's name? When you look at them, you would think it was the model for the DeLorean, which he
Right.
asked and I gave him permission for.
Okay. All right.
Because he had, prior to all that, given me a call to meet him in Detroit when I was there next, where all my real prototyping was done. First, Bruce Myers did the car. That's how I raised some money from the bank. When I finally met somebody who came from real manufacturing of automobiles, they looked at it and said, not one nut or bolt from that will ever be in a real car. That's when I had to go to Detroit and pick a designer and a company that could build a clay model with 1/10,000th of an inch. And when they pulled the plaster off of it, it would ruin the darn thing and it would take this much time. And oh my God, it's going to cost millions, not bullshit thousands that I was spending on this thing. I had no idea what I had to spend. I had no idea what I'm supposed to do. So, the end of the story, I decided to build a car. John gives me a call and he says to me, what would you say if I said I'll leave General Motors and be your president? After he sees the prototype and meets the people doing it, which he has to do. Picks me up in the airport in his stretch Chevy and takes me over. So I said, yeah, let me give you that story. I said, well, what's it going to cost? He said, well, if I leave General Motors by quitting, I'm going to lose $1.6 million. So I said, so what you want is $1.6 million. I said, okay, get your lawyer, come down to Philadelphia. We're going to go to the First Pennsylvania Bank. You're going to meet John Bunning, the chairman. I'm going to give him some Subaru stock. He's going to give me $1.6 million. We have a deal. He said, that's it? I said, John, I know who you are. We've done business before. His brother used to work for me in a company called Fast Track, which got rid of the little cars that I had to get rid of. But that's another story. I don't know what I'm going to do in manufacturing. You do. What are you kidding me? I kiss your ass. I can't imagine anybody better. He said, okay, great. He went down to Philadelphia the next day. John Bunning said, Malcolm, that's a great idea. I'll give you the money. Him and his lawyer did it. It's been less than 24 hours. I never saw anything move so fast. I said, we can do slower if you want. Anyhow, I said, call me when you get home. He goes home, gives me a call. But by the time he called me, I said, let's see what I just did. John is a narcissist, and I'm a narcissist. He's more than me. But it's going to come down to whose name's on the back of the car. I'm not going to change that. That's going to be a problem. I can see that's going to be a problem. Boom. He calls me. I said, John, I've been thinking. Let me tell you what. And I gave him the same thing I just told you. I think what we ought to do is back off and think about it. And think about if we really could, when it comes down to it, tolerate each other. I like you, but I'm not sure if you're working for me, and that's scary when I just said it. You know more about manufacturing, but I know everything else. I said, let's say, he says, I agree. I was getting nervous myself. He said it was moving too fast. I haven't told General Motors yet, and I don't know how soon I'm going to have the balls to do that either, because that's a big deal. They don't have people like me in my position leaving ever. That's like against them. They don't like that. Okay, great. Left that big. Fast forward to John, when the premier did what he did and put us out of business, which you're going to hear that story, the real story, which was not covered in the book, even though I told him that story. It wasn't covered the way it really should have been, which there again is, You just can't expect 100% of anything. So the end of the story is John called me afterwards. Next time you're in Detroit, let's have dinner. I had dinner. He's going to build a car. Can I use the little car to raise money like you did? Yeah, I had a film on it. I said, you can do anything you want to do. He talked about making it stainless steel as the way to not have a paint factory. Like that's the reason why I did acrylic. Acrylic was incredible, and acrylic's what I'm going to use now for the new car. I mean, you don't need a paint factory, you don't need the presses, and you don't need the welding equipment. You don't need any of that stuff. And it lasts 50 years later, it looks just as good, and you can't make a dent in it. If you hit it hard enough with a sledgehammer, they make a hole, you put the hole right back in. I couldn't understand why nobody stole the idea. So I'm stealing back my idea. I'm going to do it again. It's wood tooling and vacuum forming machines instead of 800 million for a paint palette.
Well, and
Anyhow,
this is the genius also of Slate, right? Slate Motors is, I mean, they're going
well,
thick.
no, they're not. God bless them, but they got a complicated situation going where they're going to change and make it an SUV and paint the car. Paint the car still as tooling. Tooling costs hundreds of millions of dollars. That's why they're talking about they only raised 700 million, but other people are spending $3, $4, $5 billion for the stamp, not the stamping, but the tooling itself in steel is a bit. Anyhow, I got wood tooling. I can do it in 2 seconds for nothing and a half and change the body every day if I wanted to. But forget about that. Everybody wants to do it their way. Let them do it there. It's the wrong way. It's the stupid way, but it's the way they know how. All right. So now build the car. So I now, after we get it all done and all tool, and I'm really excited by it. I won't get into all that detail. I got to find a place to build it. And I never planned for the money for the factory. I don't know what I was thinking, but it already cost me more than I thought for the prototyping. I mean, it had to be accurate to 1/10,000 an inch tooling and that, and it's only wood tooling so far. Then I had to go out and find acrylic and build a vacuum forming, which was, thank God I did that. We never would have been able to do it because it cost me $20 million to do everything, including setting up the 400 dealers. We had 46,000 back orders there, and they were coming in like crazy on that thing. They had 1,200 people getting UAW wages because I called the UAW to come in, please help me, because these people had, I think, 3 or 4 months you went to work and then you got a year unemployment. So guess what I got? 80% turnover. I mean, it was. Anyhow, so I'm looking for a factory. I don't know what I'm looking for. And they had a Renault factory in Montreal. And I go to look at that because it was empty. And it was empty because the unions were horrible in Montreal. Nobody could make any money. So I don't want the unions and I don't want to go to Montreal. So the hell with that. And then somebody tells me about the Premier in New Brunswick. Where's New Brunswick? They tell me, on the day they had a flood, a horrible, horrible flood in New Brunswick, I show up to meet the Premier Hatfield. And we talked, and after about 10 minutes, we liked each other. And I said, listen, here's the deal. You give me a building and finance the factory, and I'll get you all the publicity you will ever want for your province, and people will not say, where's New Brunswick? They'll have heard about New Brunswick and the Premier of New Brunswick, because instead of your fishermen and your, woodmen, you're going to have the latest, coolest car that ever was. And that's every time I'm on television, you're going to be right there by me. When I'm talking to Harvard Business School, you're going to be right there with me. You'll get as much as you want. We became friends and we made a deal. And he gave me the first $3 million in an old paint factory. And we did what we did. And in Minto, we put in the vacuum forming machines. And from the day I said I'm going to build a car with all the trouble to the day it came off the line in New Brunswick was 2 years. And it took 5 or 6 years for Don to do the same thing for $300 million. And I told him where he could go in Ireland to get the money, because they had come to me after we closed down. I didn't want to go where they were killing people. I said, if you don't got the problem there, you, John, will kiss your ass and give you everything you ever want. All right. And he did stainless steel not to have the paint facility. I told him a story, though. I said, there's a marketing story I want you to hear, because it's ironclad. It will happen. No matter how terrific any product is, if you only build or sell the same exact product, there comes a point where it goes from, oh my God, how great is this, to I don't want any more. I can't tell you when, I can't tell you what the number is, but it does get there. Whether if you took a Ferrari and you only painted it red, you would come to a point nobody would buy a Ferrari again. I said, now you got stainless steel, and that's cool. There's going to be a number where stainless steel ain't going to hack it because too many. He said, well, I'm going to anodize. I said, no, stop. You know better than me. You need shiny when it comes to car. Anodize ain't shiny. Think of something, but think of it now because there will come a number. And that number was 5,000 because he called me at 5,000. What do I do?
What
I
did you
said,
tell?
the only thing I can think of is to make that stainless steel nice and smooth and paint it. He said, now you're going to have not the big expensive paint facility, but you're going to need a paint job on the dollar car. He said, without that, and that was the end of it. He didn't take it as well as I take failure. It hurt because he wasn't used to it. He wasn't used to not having good stories about him. Anyhow, I liked him a lot. I enjoyed being his friend. I enjoyed watching him do what he was doing. Now in the museum here in Melbourne, the guy who owns that museum, the American Muscle Car Museum, 440 cars, kept in the most incredible condition in the universe by a billionaire who happened to be an investor on all of my board, has a Bricklin, and right across from it has a DeLorean.
Beautiful.
And I want to tell you, the Bricklin outshines it 10,000 times. And on top of that, the body, all the other bodies are kept in pristine condition, and the Bricklin body makes them all look like old cars. And that's the cheapest way you can make the car body, and the smartest way you can make it. And nobody stole it. And I couldn't understand why somebody wouldn't do the idea. It's not the way the minds work in those goddamn companies. They want expensive. They want big because that allows them to make $60 million salary. And if you drop the expenses and the people, you wouldn't be able to allow to get 60 million. It doesn't matter. End of story. So I decided to build the car. I built the car. And the story I want you to hear is the premier and I were close. He was the most honest, the most caring as far as for his province. He loved the job he was doing, and he did it every day. He took it very serious, and he was smart, caring, and cosmopolitan, and we got along great. And he got all the publicity you ever imagined. He was everywhere with me. One day he comes in and he says, I need 3 cars. Sure. What color you want? He tells me. So what do you want them for? He said, the first car is going to go in front and get a crowd. Second car, the New Brunswick. He's going to he's calling another election premier. He said, the second car will have my mother in it. And the third car will be me. And now the election is over. And the front page of all the papers have Premier Hatfield wins the Bricklin election, the largest plurality in the history of elections. And a cartoon of the car with the doors open and him flying out of the top with the Superman costume on. The Bricklin election. I'm going, I own this place, da, 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 to my mind. 3 months later, the premier comes in. Malcolm, can I speak to you? Sure. We go in. I see him breathing heavily. Oh, what's wrong? He said, well, I'm closing it down. And I said, it's even a bad joke. You know, I got 46,000 back orders and I can have double that if I didn't tell the dealers to hold on, because that's 3 years supply. I'm only planning on building 12,000 a year. And I said, you got 1,200 people getting UAW wages. You won the Bricklin election because of that. He said, yeah, that's why I'm here. Who would have ever imagined? Every day I go downstairs to talk to the press, like I did every day since I've been premier. But now they have 2 questions. How's Malcolm and how's the car? They don't want to hear another thing. I got no political voice. So I'm going to close you down. I'm going to get abused. I'm going to wait a year. I'm going to call another election. And then I'm going to win it for me. And that's exactly what it did. Now, that's not in there because When he shut me down, even though that cost me a lot of money and a lot of abuse, I never told that story because I didn't want to hurt him. Because I knew, first of all, I liked him. And second of all, I knew that hurt him to do it. I mean, that wasn't fun for it. And I knew that it was either him or me is really where he came. Really. So I did not want to tell the truth. So I just let it be. And then when people write stories, we couldn't sell them because of the quality, and this wouldn't work. That was all bullshit. We fixed everything that had to be fixed. There's nobody who built a car that didn't have things to fix. And the sales, we had no sales were the opposite. I never said a word until about a couple of years later, he had died. And a musical called Bricklin, an automotive fantasy, was put on. And we were invited, my wife and I, to go watch it. And it was a great story. And what was really the story about at the end? Exactly what really happened and why he closed it down. I happen to, you can go on Google right now for $15, buy the disc of that musical. So then it was easy to talk about. He was dead and it's already out.
Amazing. I mean, so there's a song about the Bricklin. There's a musical about the Bricklin.
The musical, by the way, is good. The actors look like me with my mustache when I had a mustache, and look like him.
What happened to the mustache? We have to talk about that.
I had a mustache for 15 minutes. You know, I had a hairdo out the here once for 15 minutes. I had every kind of whatever the trend was, I had for 15 minutes.
Fair enough. But there's also you have a Canadian stamp. There's a collector's stamp.
And the coin.
And a collector's coin.
Yeah.
It's staggering.
The car on the one side and the queen on the other side. $20 gold fee, silver coin that is now up to about $60.
Well, I saw it for sale this morning for $93. So
okay. God bless.
Yeah, you're appreciating. And so that's crazy. So if he had not done that, or if he had
not done that, I wouldn't get to do all the other things I had got to do, because I would have never left that. I would be stuck there.
Well, do you think it seems like you might have to sell the company and move on?
Clear. What?
It seems like you might have been the kind of guy to like ride that for like 5 more years and then move on to the next thing.
No. It had my name on the back of the car. I couldn't have moved on from that. I had no intention of. Believe me, this is not a scenario that I would have dreamt of. But if you think about it, it's the only way I could come out of this thing, in my mind, clean. I didn't walk from it. But I also didn't do something that is not like me. I don't give up when somebody says they're going to do it. Normally, if you think I would have walked out the door and let that be, it wouldn't have been. I would have found a way to harangue him until he finally saw the stupidness of his ways.
Right. So then let's go back.
I didn't know that at the time. I'm just saying. All I knew was I was in a position where I did not want to hurt him. If I didn't tell the truth, there's no way anybody is going to sympathize with me. And that's the end of the story.
Right. Let's circle back to the Elon story.
All right. Elon, I told you I get a call. I said, okay, I'm in California to see one of my sons who was in the Junior Olympics in the water polo. And Jonathan, the guy that I said talk to, my another son, who was in the filmmaking, well, still in filmmaking business, filmed this thing, and I'm killing him to get the goddamn tape of the 5 hours we had with each other. And I came away from that meeting. Now, Musk was in his 30s. That he was stubborn, arrogant, and the idea of trying to sell on the internet. I told him, look, I can't tell you, whether that's smart or not smart, but I will tell you, you can't service on the internet. And I can tell you, if you build a good car, the one thing that you get when you have a good car is people don't want it down. They get mad when it's down. So you got to give them good service or you'll ruin your reputation. And he's getting close to that place right now because he has millions of the cars and he was going to have people come to your place and fix it, with their truck. I said, all right, God bless. I said, there's something about a dealer that they're making money on the warranty and they're keeping a customer. So they go out of the way to try to do it good. And I said, when you have your own people doing it, they've been told to keep costs down. So they're coming from a different mentality, and it's not necessarily good for the customer. That's all I'm going to tell you. Service after you sell the car is the most important thing you have in the car business. That's why we go to dealers. And that's why we cherish them.
Right.
That's it.
That
He
was
didn't
it.
listen. And he did an incredible job. So I discounted him when he left. And then I saw him drilling holes in the goddamn thing and sending rockets up and catching them and then doing things in your brain with people who couldn't see could see. And I said, there is a genius that is one in not a million, in a trillion. That man is absolutely incredibly special. And then I start seeing him opening his mouth.
Mm.
And I said, if I was his dad, I would put a lock on it because he's killing himself for no reason whatsoever. But that you can see as part of his personality. He's a kid and he's smart as hell. But now he's doing stuff away from what he's good at. Those companies just didn't happen. They happened because he was there paying attention every day and making decisions, which doesn't happen in any normal company. That's why I get to do what I do. I make decisions. Most people go, blah, 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 blah. And it's so watered down by the time you get here, it's a joke and a half. But he's doing something else that I think, well, I got another story for you that I learned from Henry Ford. If you get involved in a technology that is in the beginning, so it's going to grow, don't invest too heavily in the present technology. Find a way to get it more expensively without a heavy investment, because what will happen is something terrific. It will happen that is exactly the way it's supposed to be, but you will not be wanting to jump into it, even though you want to do it because you got all the investment over here and you don't want to throw it away. Henry Ford. When the car went boom, a friend of mine who was an incredible inventor who invented the door that opens like this on my car, air door, and shuts immediately from a hydraulic that took 6 seconds to open and 6 seconds to close. He invented it for me in a week because I was desperate, because I realized one day when I tried to shut the door in the rain, what I had created. And he, in 1 week, figured it out, get rid of the hydraulic, put air in the door, the box frame will come back there, boom, it worked incredibly. Called me up and said, Malcolm, I need help. Would you come down, Graham, Texas? I go down. And on dynos, I see a 500, a 200, a 20 horsepower engine that has 12 moving parts that I can take apart and put together in 5 minutes. Now, let me tell you, I'm telling you, I'm sometimes wondering where I put the cord to jump the battery. So that's, I mean, he had pictures of what to do. And, you know, at 100 RPM, it has torque and it goes up to 16,000 and inexpensive to build and clean. And they're on dynos. So it's not a matter he's thinking about it. I said, well, this is incredible. He said, yeah, but I can't get anybody to listen. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, except you're in Graham, Texas. Well, what do you want me? He said, I want you to put your name on the engine and get me attention. I said, well, stop. If I put my name on, I get credit for it. I am not taking credit for building that engine when it was yours. That is not okay with me. He said, but I'm not going to get attention otherwise. I said, I'll tell you what. How about if we call it the Bricklin Turner? His name was their power plant. And when we can make it, finally get the attention, it's out, we'll take the Bricklin name off. It's yours. And it's a genius. He said, okay. He said, I'll give you 50%. I said, no, you won't. I'll get you the publicity that's for you because you've done so many favors for me. If I get it so that somebody buys it, instead of 50%, I want 10%. Okay, great. I said, okay, great. And I called Mechanics Illustrated. I said, get somebody down here right now and look at this thing. And they did. And it was front cover of Mechanics Illustrated. And unfortunately, in the front, it said the Bricklin, but in the article, Bricklin Turner Power Plant, and unbelievable, but we saw it all work. All the things I just said to you, they saw on the dyno. It happened to be the magazine came out, and I was invited to be one of the guest speakers at the first World Automotive Congress meeting that Automotive News was putting on, which they have every year. I think it was 76. And for Henry Ford was the first day speaker, and Malcolm Bricklin was the second day speaker, and John DeLorean was the third day speaker. And my speech was about that inventor. I brought the inventor, I brought a film of everything on the engine, and I brought a copy of the magazine. And I made my speech, but I had to deal with Henry. He was right across the street. It was at the Hyatt across the street from Ford headquarters. That when I was done with my speech, I would come visit him. He was going to give me a half hour because I was going to sell him the engine, give him the engine, basically. And so I come over with my wife at the time, beautiful, blonde, blue-eyed young lady. So he was definitely paying attention. And I brought a 20 horsepower about this big. And it's like now the 14th floor of the Ford's thing, which was his floor only, the aisles walking down were 2 or 3 times as wide as a normal. All the men, no women, all the men who were his helpers, his secretaries, were gray suits and white gloves, and his office. Yeah. So I went in to see Andrea, sit down. He's paying attention to her. And I said to him, and I handled the 20 horsepower. And I said, here's the magazine. Here's a copy of the film. And I tell him all the incredible things that I can't even fix it. It's going to revolutionize the car business. You can build lighter cars, cheaper cars, engines that go last forever. You own the world. I'm giving it to you. He said, well, what's the deal you want? I said, I'm going to give it to you for 5 years. It's yours. At the end of 5 years, you want to continue 50%. We share whoever you want to license it to, including yourself. Wow. I can't ask for a better deal. I said, there is one condition. You have to, in the first 2 years, put this in a car that you engineer for this engine. So we can demonstrate it and show everybody, and so can you. He said, that's great. I'll send the head engineer down to Graham. Will you meet him there? Yeah, when? Thursday. Great. I sold it to Henry. I thought.
You thought.
So I go to Graham, Texas. His head engineer is there. Mr. Bricklin, can I speak to you? Yeah. I'm here to invalidate your engine.
Invalidate.
And then I thought, what in the fuck is wrong with me? I'm asking this man to take the billions he has invested in engines, transmissions, and cars and throw them away and reinvest them over here in the new engine. I wouldn't do it. He couldn't do it if he wanted to. The board would fire him before he could do that.
Yeah, dealers, parts.
And that's when I learned the lesson. You don't invest in that. I need somebody new, and somebody new can't do me any good because it'll take them forever for them to go build a car around the damn thing and sell it and set up distribution. That's why nobody's coming to see his engine. And that's what I learned when I decided to get into EVs, not to invest in the battery. Don't do it, because someday you'll have a 5-minute recharge, and that's what you need. And then if you want to, that's when you invest. Not now, because the people who invest in it now, $3 billion aren't, even if they have that technology, which is now available, by the way, in China, they're not going to move to it because they got this over here. And I wouldn't do it either. I got it. That's my lesson that I learned from that.
I mean, what do they call that? They call that like the innovator's dilemma, right? Do you take the better technology, or do you can keep pounding away at the?
And they had no choice. If you didn't build the battery factories, EVs wouldn't get started. So they did what they thought they had to, and that traps them. And I said, they got overcapacity. I don't need any of that crap.
I have 2 remaining questions. One simple, one I'm sure both will have stories. When am I going to be able to drive the 3 EV? When am I going to be able to drive that? Can I get a?
Well, if you were here in my garage, you could drive it right now.
Right now, I should just take a road trip to New York and.
No. You could ride around the block if you wanted.
All right. Okay. Fair enough.
But yes, Roush is doing the engineering and the sourcing, and they'll also produce 1,000 a month, and Foxconn will do the bigger number.
So that's amazing. So Foxconn is going to do the manufacturing.
They have a big 2.6 million square foot factory in Ohio that they bought, electric vehicle factory.
Amazing. That's amazing. Um,
They both came here. They both drove the car. They both freaked out. Oh my God, it's a real car. What do you know? It's more than a real car, baby. It drives more fun than any car you've ever driven, and it looks better than anything you've seen.
I said I had two questions. I got two more questions. So I had one, two more are, the way you tell these stories, um, and this is not an insult, but have you ever felt like you knew what you were doing? Was there ever a time when
I always know what I'm doing.
you
I know
always
I
know what you're
don't know, so I'm going to get people who do.
There you go.
It's so simple. It doesn't bother me.
Brilliant.
Well, I'll tell you another story that happened 2 days ago. An investment banker was here over the weekend, a friend of mine from Canada. He said, there's two people want to meet you. They're in the AI, very successful. They have something they want to talk. They're in love with you. Yeah, but at my age, to a lot of people, I'm this legend. I'm not even a person anymore, which I love, by the way, but I laugh. Now, there's a case of me. If I was a normal human, I would say, no, thank you. Although I have IA on my phone and I use it, and I'm amazed when I ask a question and they give me a great answer. If you want to talk about how to use the technology and everything, I'm not the guy. I got somebody else that you want to talk to. But I said yes. Now, keep you waiting because I'm not going to tell you what they told me. But what they told me will change the automobile as you know it. We will do to the automobile what this did to phones. And it'll be in my car in 45 days. And I can't tell you until it's in the car, and then I'll tell you. And
All right.
we will freak out. And that was because I said yes. Now, do I know anything enough to tell you I'm about to change the world of automobiles? They already offered to put my name on the patent. They'll give me a worldwide exclusive. I know exactly nothing except who to talk to and how to get it, make sure everything is done right. I have no question it's going to be incredible. And I have no question if I had to do it, I wouldn't know where the hell to go do next.
I have no question about that either. So my last question is,
I mean, podcasts. Before you did podcasts, did you ever imagine you doing podcasts?
that's a funny question. I mean, I didn't when I was young. Obviously podcasts didn't exist. I didn't know it existed. I may have said this story before on the podcast, but when I was young, before I went to university, there was like a brief moment where I thought I wasn't going to get into any university, and so I applied to radio broadcasting. And in the back of my head, I've always thought, if I was without a job or without a thing to do, the two things that I could probably do quickly, one was barista, like I could Starbucks, and I could get benefits after like 30 hours. So I could Starbucks barista, or I could go into radio, and now radio is podcasting. And so I don't need to find a station. I don't need to get a job. I just need a decent mic, a little bit of recording equipment, and Zoom, and we're good to go. So
Different world.
right, a different world. And then the other part of that is during COVID, in meetings like this, everyone would join, and I had, because I guess a recreational audiophile, and people would join and be like, "Your setup is so good. Do you have a podcast?" And probably after like 100 people had said that, I'm like, I think when I leave Google, I'm gonna need to start a podcast. Like there really isn't a choice. I'm gonna have to do it.
Well, look what happened. It took COVID to get you to the next step, to listen to the people telling you about something that you were for the first 50.
100%.
It's the way it happens.
Yes.
And you look happy, so you couldn't be happier doing what you're doing.
I love it. And it gives me an opportunity.
And that's the whole thing. You love it.
Right? I mean,
and you don't, you do something else. Believe me.
It gives me an excuse to reach out to people for no good reason, like yourself, and have an incredible conversation. And yeah, I love it. I love it.
Well, you can see it.
Thank you.
And that's why you got me on there for 2 hours.
Is there anything in your mind that you have that is undone? Like, what is, and I don't mean what is next, but if you think back, on like such a storied career, incredible stories. What what do you still need to do? What is keeping you up at night?
I don't know what's next, but I've never known what's next. But there is something next, and next, and next, and next. And by the way, you're the first person that has gone far enough, so I'm down to 10% juice. That was what the notice was.
Batteries are the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Malcolm, thank you for this time. It's been an amazing story, an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for this.
Well, it's been my pleasure. I wouldn't have been doing it.
Thank you.
So thank you too. You got me anytime you want. And when you decide to come out, you can drive the car.
Perfect.
And if you wait a year, you'll be able to go drive your car. And believe me, when you see it, you're going to want to do that.
Amazing.
Have a good one.
You too, sir. That was mostly unedited. I debated cutting this into half so there would be two parts. It's long. I know. I'm sorry you made it to the end. I'm sorry it's long. But what a set of stories. What a set of stories. I think I got some exclusives in there. I think there are some things that he shared with me that Malcolm had never shared with anyone else. Tell all your friends in automotive or elsewhere about this story about Malcolm Bricklin and New Brunswick and Bricklin Motors and Subaru and scooters and Elon and the new car and all of the things. Malcolm, thank you for spending so much time with me. I can't believe you went on and said all of the things you said and allowed me to record all of them and put them here on the podcast. Very grateful for that. Thank you again. As always, please subscribe to my newsletter at thechangeoptimist.com. And thanks again to Dark Tapes for my intro and outro music.